this white prison warden gives these two coloured people his business card and tells them to call in anytime, and you can work for me anytime you want, sort of thing. It's kind of like, Stan and Ollie do take offence to that in this movie, so I think that's their way of saying that, that whole period in slavery was wrong. Legends, welcome along to another review of Laurel and Hardy here on Coins Age Media. This is Pardon Us from 1931. That's the first movie on disc 19 of the Laurel and Hardy box set, which has Pardon Us and two related shorts, The Hoose Cow and The Battle of the Century. Pardon Us is an absolutely brilliant movie, feature length, and one that I've seen quite a few times over the years, but I have to say this is the first time I've seen it in full. Now, any time I've seen it up to this point, I thought I knew it so well, haven't seen it so many times on television. We did actually have it in VHS for a few years. We recorded it off television. One time it was shown, and I've always tended to skip across it on this box set because I've seen it so many times. Epic film, but obviously over the years, anytime I've seen it up to this point, it has had chunks of it cut out of it, obviously to make room for like television commercials and whatnot. There's easily 15 to 20 minutes worth of footage in this film I have never seen before. I've literally just came out of watching it 100% for the first time. Absolutely brilliant. Now, don't make the same mistake as me. I have jumped over this movie because I thought I've seen it before. There's a lot of shorts on it I haven't watched up to this point before I started doing these reviews. Silent movies and stuff like that there. I kind of skipped over a few of them, but they are absolutely brilliant. As I said in the last review, the foreign language speaking ones, definitely don't skip over them if you get this box set, because there's a lot of extra footage in those that are not included in the English speaking versions. Anyway, let's get into Pardon Us. That's ridiculous. We're over 2 minutes into this review and I haven't talked about the film yet. Basically, in this film, Stan and Ollie get sent to prison for being a couple of beer barons. They're brewing up their own home brew and they're selling it, and Stanley makes the mistake of selling it to a policeman. So they get busted, get sent to prison to do their time. When they get there, it's just, the fish out of water set up. Stan and Ollie do not belong in prison, and they're not in the place 2 minutes to get into trouble. They get their personal belongings taken off them. Oliver's little pocket watch keeps ringing. He has to turn it off whenever it's on the desk of the guy that's signing them in. And while he's not looking, Stanley is messing about with the table, and he's lifting stuff and looking at it. And he lifts He lifts Ollie's pocket watch and he's playing about with that, and Oliver rips it off and he goes to set it down, but the guy that was signing them in, his back's turned him at this point. He turns back around, so Oliver automatically puts the watch back in his pocket. And as they're been let off to get their prison clothes and whatnot, of course, the pocket watch starts ringing again, and Oliver gets busted. And it seems like he's, tried to steal his own watch back. Well, the rules say it has to be taken off you at the beginning of your prison sentence. Yes, after a rough start, whether on getting cleaned up and into their uniforms, they're obviously just out of the baths, they're into their prison uniforms, and they're messing about. Stanley is, taking too much time getting ready, and one of the prison guards, right, hurry up, fall in. And just as he says fall in, Oliver slips on a bar of soap that's covered by a towel that Stanley has dropped, and he falls into a bath. Yes, and of course Stanley gives him a dry towel to dry himself off with. He's still in this bath, and he puts it in the water and goes to throw it at Stanley, but he ducks and it hits the prison officer smack in the face. Off to a completely bad start here, and yes, they get sent to the warden, the prison warden, and he's doing the induction with them, and he's like one of these guys that's seems like understanding on the surface. If you behave yourself, your time will be not so bad here. You'll fit in, but if you don't follow the rules, it'll be a living hell for you. And it says, "Do you understand?" Stanley says, "Yes, sir." But I did forget to say, he has got, in this movie, he's got a loose tooth, where every time he speaks, it buzzes. So it's like he'll answer a question and he'd be like, this sort of a deal. And he answers, "Yes, sir." The tooth buzzes, and it sounds like he's blowing a raspberry at the warden, and he completely loses his cool, tells him to get out, put him in cell 14, I believe the number is. For some reason that doesn't sound right in my mind now, thinking I'm making the movie. Anyway, the cell they're sending them to is the cell of a prisoner called the Tagger. Now the prison officer that has brought them to this meeting, he's like, "What? You're putting them in with the Tagger?" And up to this point he's been kind of like, not really rough on them, but he's like a no-nonsense sort of a prison officer. And like even at this, hearing this news, he's kind of taken aback. And the prison warden is just, so angry. "Get them out of my sight. Get them into the cell." And they get put into the cell with the Tagger, who is obviously the top dog of the prison. And, again, this is where, they are terrified of what's going to happen with this guy. And Stanley's tooth buzzes again, and Oliver's trying to apologise for him, but the Tagger is like, "You and me are going to be good pals to Stanley. You're the first guy ever to have the nerve to raspberry the Tagger." So Oliver thinks, if Stanley can get away with it, I'll get away with it. So he, when the Tagger asks what he's in for, Oliver pipes up and he's all confident, and "We are a couple of beer barons," and blows a raspberry, and the Tagger punches him in the face. So this is going to be a long review. I can tell this already, 7 minutes. Right, let's cut this down a little bit. There's a great sequence in the prison cell where, there is only enough bunks for the prisoners that are in there. There's only one left over, so Stan and Ollie have to share the same one. There's a brilliant sequence with them in the top bunk. That's bunk beds free high, and Oliver and Stanley are on the top one. And this isn't going to end well, because Oliver, being the big chap that he is, they're up there. The sequence runs for a good 5 minutes. Oliver's lying in the bunk. Stanley is trying to get in there, get the covers over him, but the cover, instead of being the right way around, is sideways. So every time he puts it in his feet and then tries to pull it up to his neck, of course the cover comes off his feet, and then he's trying to readjust everything, and he's moving about and crawling all over the place, and eventually the top bunk gives way and collapses on top of the other two prisoners. The Tagger is in the middle bunk. So we head on from that there till we go to like a schoolroom sequence, which is absolutely fantastic. We've got James Finlayson in there as like the schoolmaster, and that sequence alone needs to be seen to be believed. That is absolutely hilarious. With Finlayson trying to take the class and give them an intelligence test, and he's asking questions like, "What is a blizzard?" And Stanley replies, "A blizzard is the inside of a buzzard." Stupid stuff like that. "How many times does 3 go into 9? Stanley answers the question 3 times. Gets it right. And 2 left over. And Oliver starts laughing, and he's like, Finlayson's like, "Why are you laughing?" And Oliver's like, you think that Oliver's laughing because Stanley got the answer wrong, and he answers, "There's only one left over." Stupid stuff like that there. It's a Laurel and Hardy movie. What do you expect? Yes, eventually the Tiger and his gang decide to try and escape the prison, and they take Stanley and Oliver with them. They are quickly captured and returned to the prison, but Stan and Ollie get away. Now, this part of the movie is... And this movie is absolutely fantastic, but I don't know how it would play these days with the whole PC culture that we're living in now. Because when Stan and Ollie escape the prison, they hide out on the cotton fields, and they're in with like slaves and whatnot, so they're actually in blackface for a part of this movie. Again, I don't know how this is going to play these days. A lot of people could take offence to that these days. And in all fairness, it is an offensive thing, but Laurel and Hardy, they're good, clean comedy, and I think it's just more a product of their time than anything meant to be malicious in this. But yes, they're on the cotton fields hiding out for quite a long period of time because there was bloodhounds sent out to find them. And we discovered that the bloodhounds did find them, but they liked Stan and all that much. They stayed with them and didn't turn them in, and they have puppies as well at a certain point here. Eventually, on the cotton fields, and I laughed so hard at this one because Oliver is walking up the field and they're picking the cotton and they're putting it into these sacks, and Oliver has like really been so gentle and like pulling out the cotton and cleaning it all off and just getting what is necessary to be collected. He's put it into the bag, and while he's doing that, Stanley is following up the field, and instead of just taking the cotton off the plants, he's rubbing them out by the roots and sticking the whole thing into the pack. A car pulls up at the side of the road, and it seems like it's broken down, and this girl gets out and asks Oliver, do you guys know anything about cars? Could you help us out here? And he's like, of course, always wanting to be helpful. I should say at this point, Stanley's tooth isn't buzzing anymore because he came up with the bright idea of sticking a bit of chewing gum into the tooth and stop the buzzer from buzzing. I had to say that now before we go any further. I should really take notes while I'm watching these, but I was enjoying this movie so much I just wanted to take it in. They're fixing at the car, but after realising that the guy that's driving the car is the prison warden from the prison they escaped from, but he hasn't recognised them because they're in this disguise of the blackface. So while they're working and trying to figure out what's wrong with the engine, the girl realises, we're out of fuel, and the prison warden has an extra can in the back, as everybody did back in those days, and he's fueling up the car. And before he leaves, he's saying to Stan and Ollie, anytime you're up my way, gives them their card, call on anytime. And they're like, oh, this is so friendly of him. And then he finishes it off, you can work for me anytime. And they take offence to that. So I think that kind of covers up I think that was put on there to kind of like, this white prison warden gives these two coloured people his business card and tells them to call in anytime, and you can work for me anytime you want, sort of thing. It's kind of like, Stan and Ollie do take offence to that in this movie, so I think that's their way of saying that, that whole period in slavery was wrong. But while this is happening, if you're watching closely, you'll see Stanley is starting to chew on something, and it turns out the piece of chewing gum that he put into the tooth to stop it from buzzing has come loose. So when the prison officer is driving off, Stanley shouts, "Bye!" The tooth buzzes again. Prison officer stands on the brakes, or the prison warden stands on the brakes, and they're recaptured, taken back to the prison. And yes, there is a fantastic sequence in this movie where one of the prison officers decides to take Stanley to get this tooth fixed. And to cut a long story short for this part of it, Oliver sneaks in to give him a little bit of support. You can hear like all our prisoners in with the dentist, and it's like a screaming and racking match. You can't see anything, but you hear people screaming. Stanley is nervous and scared, and Oliver's trying to, keep him calm, sort of a thing. Then it comes to Stanley's turn, and he's taken into the dentist's office, but asks for Oliver to come in. Do you mind if I could bring my friend in here to give me a bit of support? And the guy in there is like, that's okay. Oliver comes in, and Stanley's asked which tooth is it, and he points it out. And this guy goes off to the dentist and tells him which tooth has to be taken out of Stanley's head. In the office, there's 2 dentist chairs, and Stanley is sitting on the one, and he's scared, and Oliver's trying to, what is there to be afraid about? Nobody gets hurt at the dentist anymore. He goes over and sits down in the other chair, and he's like, they could pull every tooth out of my head, I wouldn't feel a thing. And just as he's saying that, the dentist comes in and basically just straddles Oliver on the chair and yanks a tooth out of his head and chucks it away. And Oliver's like hoking in his mouth and not happy that he's lost a tooth. And the dentist inquires, what are you complaining about? Did I not get the right tooth? And Oliver's like, you got the right tooth, but the wrong man. And he points at Stanley. And the dentist's like, oh, sorry. So he goes over, straddles Stanley, yanks a tooth out of his head. And Stanley, after all the panicking, that wasn't sore whatsoever. And Oliver's like, that was alright, wasn't it? And he goes, yes. So Stanley buzzes once again. It turns out that the dentist actually got the wrong tooth after all, and they run for their lives, sort of a thing. What else happens in this movie? At the end of the film, the tiger and his gang decide to go for another escape, and this time they have got some of the staff involved in it, and some of the cooking staff have sneaked guns and weapons into the prison. And during a canteen sequence near the end of the film, everybody's sitting down to their lunch. You can see these handguns and machine guns getting passed below the tables, and one eventually reaches Stanley, and he accidentally shoots the gun off in the middle of the canteen, and a whole riot breaks out, and the whole prison goes crazy. The prison guards have been ready for this. The word has gotten out that there's another escape attempt coming up, so the prison warden has doubled the guard, and he's got the weapons trained. It's going to be a difficult thing for these guys to get out of the prison. So a massive, huge riot breaks out. The prisoners basically take over the prison. The prison guards and the warden and everybody is in the outer wall, and there's a flat-out gunfight going on. Then it skips to a part of the movie that I hadn't seen to this point, and it's the girl that was in the car earlier on with the prison warden, which was his daughter, and she's in the building that's on fire. So Stan and Ollie they do actually rescue her from the burning building, which is absolutely flipping hilarious. Again, that needs to be seen to be believed. And that was a massive chunk that was never in this movie any other time I'd seen it before, and it was just interesting to see that, get the whole movie and one sitting for the first time ever. Absolutely fantastic. Basically, by the end of the movie, Stan and Ollie are between the prison guards and the prisoners themselves. The prisoners are about to turn on Stan and Ollie because, the tiger, the top dog, feels that they have, stabbed the prisoners in the back. He's like, you've told on us to the prison warden and whatnot, and they're about to get lynched. But Stanley, again, ends up with a machine gun in his hand, and of course, it starts shooting off, and, the prisoners all run and hide, and that gives the prison guards and the backup, they've called on extra support to get the whole thing under control. And Stan and Ollie end up buying time for that to happen. So at the end of the movie, they end up saving the prison, and they end up getting offered a full pardon for, saving the prison and saving a load of lives, including the prison warden's daughter. And he gives a huge speech at the end of the movie about how proud he is of Stan and Ollie, and this pardon is a second chance for you guys to make a fresh start and move on with your lives and forget about this whole thing. Just think of this here as a hiatus, and now you're going to move ahead with whatever you want to do with yourselves. And Oliver is like, thank you, sir, we're going to make a fresh start and take up where we left off, sort of thing. And the prison warden that is great news, guys. And Stanley's like, pulls out a notepad and a pen, and he's like, can I take your order for a couple of cases? And the prison warden, once again loses the head and gets really angry with him at the end of the movie. That is fantastic. And that last part too, can we take your order for a couple of cases? The tooth buzzes again, and just, it sounds so cheeky the way he done it to the prison warden. And that is a great movie. Again, I don't know how it's going to play with the whole PC culture these days because of the whole blackface thing in the middle of it there. But it's why they're there, and the community that they have with the people that are working in the cotton fields is absolutely brilliant. It's, they're singing, they're working and they're singing. Then there's a whole sequence in the evenings where everybody's, gathered in a community, and they're all singing songs and they're dancing, and it's just one of those sequences in a movie where you think to yourself, this is good stuff. I would really kind of like to be, not in their situation, but be in that sort of close-knit community where everybody's just, singing and dancing and having a good time, and the problems seem a million miles away, sort of a setup. There's a lot of singing in this movie. It's not one of their musical movies, but there is parts of the film where they break off, and there'll be there'll be a couple of guys sitting. There's a part in the prison. There's a few of the prisoners are sitting about, and they're having a little sing song with themselves. Absolutely brilliant. Oliver sings a song in the middle of this, and he is such a good singer. Absolutely fantastic. This movie, bar the blackface thing, is absolutely fantastic. I would highly recommend you checking this out. And again, don't skip over any of these movies thinking that you've seen them, because if you've watched any movie on television, chances are it's been cut down, to allow for commercials to be put on there. And yes, for years I thought I had seen 100% of this movie. I was sadly mistaken. But again, I enjoyed the crap out of it. So good.